I'm a big fan of tuna fish. I think it's tasty, it's healthy, nutritious. Make sure to put in the right amount of mayonnaise so that the tuna pieces aren't too large and can get wedged in the esophagus, God forbid. I like it on a bagel, and I really liked it when my late softa, Rebbetzin Zuckerman, used to make me this tuna on top of a bialy. Still not sure what a bialy is, but you have to wash on it. It's bread. Put some tuna on it. It's delicious. And when it comes from your softa and it's got that little extra love ingredient, it tastes pretty darn good. And when my softa, once I went over to her house and she made it for me, I said, "Softa, this tuna bialy, it's awesome." And expecting to see a smile, I was a bit surprised when she responded with some humble and very wisdom-filled critique. She said, "Dear grandchild, dearest Michael, my favorite of the grandchildren, if tuna fish is awesome, then what are you to say about Hashem?" She continued to explain to me that Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibar, V'Hanoira, these are adjectives, they are words, descriptive terms about the omnipresent. So we must be careful not to just throw this and these words around. I used to say that your tuna fish, it's awesome, it's Noira, it's Gibor, it's Oyam. Choose a different word. I still remember that to this day. Because when this parsha comes, this memory always comes back because this is the parsha of awesomeness, of exaltedness, set asideness, elevatedness, superiority, extra specialness, extraordinariness, uncommonness, and the opposite. The entire parsha goes through people, things, and situations that are special, that are truly awesome, different, and Kiddush. We begin with the laws of the Kohanim, the priests, and how they're different. A step up, a rung in holiness. The priests that live a more close, knitted relationship with Hashem and closer proximity to Kedusha. They're set aside for Hashem. Therefore, they have more laws, how they need to follow suit and act. They can't go inside of a cemetery. They cannot make themselves lower by acting in a way that will defile their holiness. We learn all about the specialness that is needed in the bringing of a sacrifice in a carbon. You don't bring some sort of one-eyed, limping calf. No blemishes. No blind animals. It's got to be the best. Not all animals are equal. There are some special sacrifices, some special opportunities, some different occurrences, no blemishes, and no blemishes on the Kohanim. The bad breath, the four-eyed Kohen, any of the 140 blemishes, the mumim that are enumerated by the Rambam, all of these will make a person unfit to be in this unique, special proximity of Hashem, to be a carbon or to do the bringing and the offering, the processing of the carbon. We get the mo'adim in Parshas Emor, the times that are set aside, a holy convocation. We learn about Shabbos, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Shavuos, the Omer, all these different times that are different, that are special, that are awesome, that are Keila, Godel, Agira, Noira, with tremendous opportunity. So, tuna fish, in comparison to all of these situations, probably isn't awesome. Because, to say it straight, if everything is awesome, well then nothing is awesome. And there's a couple hallmark psukim in our parsha that summarize and give kind of the subtext of this parsha. We get the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. V'nikdashti b'toich b'nei Yisrael. Give up your life. Give up everything. Sanctify and dedicate yourself to Hashem. The idea that there is something in this world that's even bigger, greater, more awesome than life. The mitzvah of sanctification of Hashem, Kiddush Hashem, and God forbid the opposite, vice versa. The pasuk that really takes this buckshot Dvar Torah and makes it into a laser beam shot to really hit one point over and over again and make it very precise is the fourth pasuk of our parsha that really shows us one unique aspect of what the importance is to have the right mindset of what is special and what isn't, and perhaps where modern society may be out of bounds within the realms of our Torah. The pasuk is Lo yitame bal ba'amav laheichalo. The Baal, the husband, may not defile himself to his people laheichalo. A hard word to translate. The pasuk seems to have a lot of similar words, a bit arcane. Rashi explains to us that it's referring to a man who is married to a woman who is prohibited to him. He shouldn't go to her funeral. He's a Kohen and he's not allowed to. This isn't permitted. You should not be mitame yourself. The Baal here is referring to the husband. But Onkelos, the official translation of the definitive word of how to understand the Torah, along with the Ramban, take a different approach to this pasuk. Onkelos says that lo yitama bal ba'amav laheichalo is lo yistoev rabo ba'ame. A Baal here doesn't mean husband, but it means an exalted one, an honored one among his people, may not defile himself. That a person who has a certain stature, he is professional, hallowed, has a certain status. You can't go everywhere and do everything. You cannot follow that funeral procession, for it will make you impure. And Rabbi Yerucham points out that while the Talmud does teeter-totter back and forth if a Kohen is allowed to follow at a distance this funeral procession, how close could he go, what's considered in the ohel of the cemetery. But Mace Mitzvah, the idea of burying people, Kavod Abrius, the final honor to the body, giving it a humane burial, is one of the most important and talked about cardinal mitzvos that we have in the Torah. Mace mitzvah, the mitzvah of halavayas hameis, escorting the body, that is applicable in all situations. No one should know from it. But it's a very special mitzvah. But the Kohen is held back. He's cautioned, do not take part in that mitzvah, as bad as you want. And I'm sorry, my little Kohen child. Sorry, Johnny. I know everyone's going to the Levaya, but you're different. You're special. Lo yitame bal ba'amav. If you become impure, you are desecrating what you represent. You are no longer able to do the avodah, and you are living amongst the Muggles, living amongst the Israelites. But Dad, everyone's going, Dad. Let me go. Everyone's going. I'm sorry, son. You are exalted, and you aren't like everyone else. You're a Kohen. Lo yitame bal ba'amav. You're an Israelite. You're a Jew. The Ramban shows us in expounding these words of Onkelos, lo yistoev bal ba'ame, But it's based on the fact that Kiddush Hashem, the idea that someone stands at a higher place, that he is a chelek of the Am Kadosh of the Jewish people, well then acting anything less than what's expected of him is being metame bal b'heicholo, is lowering yourself, defiling yourself, and a bizoi kevodo, a degradation of the necessary honor. You must act dignified. Lo yitame bal ba'amav. Lowering yourself from a certain stature makes achil Hashem. Achil Hashem, the word itself, is the opposite end, the South Pole of purity. Purity, Kedusha, Kiddush Hashem, it means Havdalah, it means separate, it means a different level. And it's our job to keep what's special, special. In contemporary society, perhaps no Torah, philosophy, and ideology is under more fire and heat from surrounding nations and Western civilization than this. Because while some have good intentions in promoting a more Republican, democratic society, one where we want everyone to have a seat on the table, at the table. We want a democracy. All men are created equal. All places are good. Everyone is happy. Everything is kind of great. Every student, an honor roll student, every location, whether it be a synagogue or the beach, you can wear the same attire, fly on an airplane in your pajamas, smoke marijuana while driving a vehicle, make the lowest parts of society totally permitted, because everything is good. It's all accepted, and nothing is special. The first place that this really comes to mind is I was just reading about what makes human beings special and how it can be, God forbid, denigrated, lost, and God forbid, makes the ultimate chilul Hashem. For what does make a Jewish, or really people at that, into special creations? We have seichel, we have intellect. That's what makes us the dominating force in creation. But when somebody will go and remove his intellect, act without seichel, he lowers himself down from this great mila, from this makom of kavod, and he's yitame ba'al ba'amav laheichalo. He took what is special and made it more like everything else. An interesting essay, I found that the mere students, those Talmidim of Yeruchim, would stay away from driving vehicles. They didn't own cars. They didn't want to drive cars. And Rav Reuven Leuchter explained that he heard from Rav Volba the reason they stayed away from driving automobiles is not because for safety purposes or to make themselves stay more secluded in the study halls. No. But rather, a person, godless ha'adam, his intellect is king, focus, concentration is primary, and if one would have to drive, they were nervous, these students, that they would have to lose track of thinking about life, where they're headed and what they're doing, because they would become consumed in the driving, in the hands at 10 and 2, keeping the head on a swivel, and not being able to keep in their full seichel, focusing on life. Lo yitama bal ba'amav, because bringing down the seichel of a person, which is what makes him kadosh, what makes a person extraordinary, elevated. They want to know connection to it. Once a gentleman in Mir Yeshiva on Simchas Torah refrained from drinking alcohol, even though it seems that the mashgiach would pour a l'chaim for the boys. Obviously, they were all over 21. And when asked, the boys asked him why he didn't want one of these l'chaims. It wasn't exactly 15 shots deep. It was just one l'chaim, l'kavod chag. The gentleman said, I'm scared to lose any of my seichel. And Rabbi Yerucham gave a powerful, thundering drasha about how nesoyer he was. That but one can aspire to always keep his perfect seichel. And the fear of sin that this person had in losing the seichel, in being metame bal, ba'amav heichalo, in losing a person's maila, in losing your seichel. A chilul, a making of average, that which is special, the human, can be lowered to animalistic status. There's a big controversy in shuls a lot of times in the more religious Orthodox sections and synagogues on the Shalosh Regalim during Musaf, when we will have the Birchas Kohanim. It's always a cute occurrence when parents will bring their children in to the synagogues to get a blessing. They get to go under their tatis talis. But recently it's gotten some pushback from some other scholars, rabbinic figures, authors of Torah literature that feel that the children's presence, a lot of times they don't end up leaving. A lot of times they're pulling things over. A lot of times the infants and their candy or the wrappers bring down the hallowedness inside of the sanctuary. It can make the kadosh, the set-aside, extraordinary, and very select dimensions of the shul into a preschool. It can make it feel more like a playground for children. In a perfect world, a government would have a king. The Torah tells us the right way to run a Jewish society is with a melech, King David. Find yourself a King Solomon. Find yourself, and hopefully speedy in our days, a Melech HaMashiach. It's not so crowning of the idea of a democracy where it's a government of the people, by the people. But no, there are individuals created kadosh. They know more. They know how to lead. Trying to develop this idea that Kiddush and Chol, loftiness, specialness, it's the opposite of chulin, and not everything's the same. Tuna fish isn't necessarily awesome. And when this idea becomes eroded from society, that there are no places that are special, then, of course, it's not the slightest wonder why children will talk back to their parents, or rioters, lobbyists will storm the Capitol. Because no destination or individual is any more kadosh than anyone else. Everything is chol. Everything is mundane. It's good. It's average. When somebody will flip a light on Shabbos, Chazal call that a chilul of Shabbos. Machalel Shabbos. Malacha. You did creative work. You built. You did something that suggested that you are in control and you have the creative capacity, and you fail to remind yourself that you are helpless without the only and sole creator, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You made Shabbos average. You were Mechalo Shabbos. Saturday ain't special. It ain't Shabbos. It's just Saturday. it would follow that crossing one's legs, kicking back on the couch with Reader's Digest, chewing some gum in a bathrobe, while probably not prohibited on Shabbos, may not be treating Shabbos in a special way. It may be making it chol, and homiletically speaking, mechalel Shabbos. Kiddush Hashem tells us that Hashem is different. Hashem is loftier. Holidays are different. There are certain holy convocation time periods and other times that are less so. Kiddush Hashem teaches us that there are people that deserve more respect than others because of what they either represent or what information and knowledge they have amassed or what proximity they have accomplished in their climbing up towards Hashem. Lo yitamo bal ba'amav laheicholo. Lo yistoav rabba ba'ame. Do not lower yourself to make what is holy into average. If you're a Kohen, then even halavayas hames is being mitame bal ba'amav laheicholo. I remember Rabbi Mistovsky, and we'll close with this. There's a holy rabbi, Mashkiach, runs the kashrus down in the 757 in Virginia. They're in groups on Shabbos afternoon when we would go and listen to some stories, and he would teach us the Parsha in order actually, and ironically, to keep the children out of the synagogue. He would always say that this week is my favorite Parsha. I can continue to tell stories about the stipler and some trees and some coats. It was just a great time. We played some Gaga, some other games, read the Little Measure Says, and a lot of the basic facts and fundamental parts of Judaism I received from him, besides for the fact that he taught me my bar mitzvah parsha. But I remember him countless times mentioning that when he traveled to Eretz Yisrael, he somehow had an opportunity to view what was going on the Har HaBayis, on that holy plateau on Temple Mount, the most lofted and sacred, set-aside, kadosh, Kiddush Hashem, makom, in all of the world. I don't recall how he got a glimpse of it, but he said when he did see what was going on right now, and these days without the temple on the Har HaBayis, what was transpiring on Temple Mount, he said there were some Arab boys playing soccer. A game of soccer on the Har HaBayis. He would try about it. He would krechs about it. And remind us of the Chil Hashem, of the making of mundane of such a distinguished place in the world, that the Har HaBayis, the ultimate Kiddush Hashem, has become now nothing more than a soccer pitch, a grass field to kick a ball around. Lo yitame bal ba'amav lahichalo. Your milos, your kedusha, a Jew's distinctive superiority and his elevated, uncommon, extraordinary kedusha, it must be protected. Certain people represent something different in life, and we believe that there is a certain hierarchy in society. A melech is treated different than a serf or a countryman. And the seichel and our Shabbos, these are things that are just kadosh. But to make everything the same, everything average, and to not be willing to give it all up for Hashem, you're basically saying that a tuna sandwich with some mayonnaise on a Bialy is awesome. And softa wouldn't be too happy with you. Our job, v'nikdashti, is to keep the special special and to not let that which is kadosh become chol, to not let that which is truly awesome become just average.
Kilam kedoshim, kilam ma'ivim, kilam beredim, kilam geboinim, kilam doyeshim. Hi, dididai, dididai, nai, geschmack zizanayid, geschmack zizanayid, kilam ma'ivim, kilam beredim, dididai, 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 geschmack zizanayid.